What's up, guys? Jon Cintas here, Cutternation podcast. Special guest in-house, Jon Peabody, Cutternation 47, 46?
I don't know what we're at.
We're up pretty high on the total podcast amount. Cast quite low. First of all, don't forget, rate, review, subscribe. Follow us on YouTube. This will be on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, anywhere, Twitter. You can find it. But we're real excited to have you, Jon. Thanks for coming. You and I talked for like 18 hours one day at the gym, and with
4 hour session.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Just talking about strategy, life, the way the game's going, and I feel like you in the Twitterverse and the general Sandiego baseball area of understanding, you really have a good feel of what's going on in the world. And so we just wanted to get you in and just talk about some of the trends and the things that we were doing and try to help educate as many people as we can to the style and the philosophies and things that for what we believe in. We talk to our parents a lot of the times, and a lot of them say that there is a massive amount of information that is going on the internet, as everybody knows, but the understanding of what works, what doesn't work, how things are and stuff is one of our parents said, is like, unless you just talk directly to us when we're in there, like they just don't really get as much information as they would like, you know what I mean? So welcome, and let's start with that. Let's start with your playing history, and why don't you introduce yourself to the people that may not know you. I know a lot of we said your name to a couple of our clients. Sorry, they weren't quite familiar with you, but I don't think there is much Twitter versus as.
No, I had a kid from Minnesota just texting me, and I'm like, no, I can't. I'm with Peabody. He's like, oh, sick.
Popular.
I've known about you since for 5 years.
Oh yeah, no. Twitter's helped out a lot as far as getting kind of the name out, and that was kind of the whole point behind it. Was I just wanted to just have a bigger outreach. I felt like I had a decent outreach in San Diego. It wasn't about building my San Diego business or anything like that. I just felt like I had good information that I was giving to my local clients that I wanted to figure out how to give it out to more clients, and Twitter has been a great way to be able to do that. I think a lot of people have kind of caught on to the trend of being able to market themselves through it and be able to give out tidbits of information, and I think that's awesome. But I think the best thing about it is you still need to have that applied to that individual. So as much of information as there is out there, to apply it to that person, I think is the key, which is where we kind of come in hand. So
how do you get to that point where you're making that decision to go to Twitter? Like what's happening? I don't know who you are yet.
I was bored. Yeah, I was just bored, and I was like, literally, I was just like, I want to reach people that I can't reach, and I don't know how else to do that outside of. I couldn't really think of any other way besides Twitter to really do that, podcasting and stuff like that.
Let's go into that, because I feel like social media gets such a bad rap these days with things, and I feel like the way you provide information, the way we provide information, and also the way we consume information, like I feel like if I'm not seeing something or trying to learn something through social media, I just don't feel like there's just so much information out there, especially with the playoffs and everything that's going on right now. Like, you can just learn so much. So, is that same with you, or how do you feel like your consumption of the social media? Do you feel like it gets a bad rap also, or do you feel like that, obviously anybody can turn a path, but what do you think?
I think it definitely gets a bad rap, especially, with travel ball and high school coaches. Kind of feel like they have to defend themselves from the things that people see or hear on Twitter, which, again, I understand to a certain degree, because on Twitter you're not getting the whole message. I think when you do Instagram Lives, when you're doing Periscopes, there's more of you have more time to explain the what's and the hows of whatever drills or whatever your philosophy is. It's not clickbait. I think there is a lot of clickbait on Twitter, a lot of retweet bait, which is something I always wanted to make sure I stayed away from. I always tried to kind of be original in the sense of, I was really big on posting videos at first, and I kind of wanted the videos to do the speaking. I didn't want to do the talking. I think a good video says enough, and I kind of wanted it, I wanted to stay out of it to a certain extent, and I still kind of do that. Now if you go on my Twitter account, there's a lot of kind of taking what I think high school coaches and kind of the people that I would fight with over Twitter would say, you don't know what you're talking about, and I kind of let certain people who do know what they're talking about because they have a better playing background than me per se. Kind of find really good information of them talking and doing things and saying, hey, you know what, this is the same perspective I have, but here, listen to it from Alec Bregman's mouth instead of my mouth. Kind of verifying everything that I talk to my kids about, but again, socially letting kind of my message be sent through other players.
That's an interesting way to do it, because it sounds like, I mean, I do it all the time too with a lot of the things that I see, where it's like, you know, there are a bunch of different ways to swing the bat, right?
Right.
There's a bunch of different ways to throw a baseball, but in the philosophy and the style that you believe in, defending it using video evidence of like, look, this is how I think it should be done. This
Right.
is like your opinion. You know, I agree with that totally. Like with
Well, it gives you a chance to like channel a bunch of ideas that are not necessarily your own, but things that are in line with your values. So it's a really good way to like point people in the right direction. And I think what's tough is the fact that there's so many people like us that exist, and on the surface, like you said, it's hard to know the difference between clickbait and something else. Like, I mean, just think of like TM, right? Like that is a novel. Just to like think of the like interpreting some of these people, right? Interpreting people that you don't know, not having these interactions back and forth, and only like that. Those are the limitations, of course. But then on top of it, like I know who you are. Like I walk into a facility, I'm like, oh my gosh, hi John. It's weird. I know who you are, and I didn't even expect this to happen. I have a friend who I've the opposite, never met. Like Kurt Hughes from Ignite Baseball. Like I talk to him, you know, at worst case once a month.
Yeah.
You know, and I bounce ideas off people, but you know, as a consumer, as a parent, like navigating these things, like I don't know, it just gets so challenging right away because the easy answers don't, right? And you see that a lot. Like parents will be completely off social media and not be connected to it at all, but that can also be scary as well because there is so much good stuff here. So
Really
I don't know where I'm going with this because I think I think the point is that it's challenging for everybody.
Well, and a suggestion that I like one of our parents had an idea of is like, we have a dedicated Instagram account for a kid, and he's like 10, maybe 11 or something like that. But we know who he follows, where he goes. We do it with them.
Right.
They kind of sit down and look over the information. They watch our stuff. They watch your stuff, and kind of put it all together. But it's like a joint family thing. And so the kid is allowed to go on YouTube and look at other stuff because they feel like YouTube's maybe a little bit safer way to go about it and do things.
You can restrict YouTube, yeah, 7-year-old. With his 7-year-old,
He's on kids YouTube, so I don't know about the older
Okay.
adult YouTube how much you can restrict. I'm assuming, but
Well,
I don't know.
I think it's going to the same thing. It's like following, subscribing. Like you can pick certain accounts and do things.
I think
and help them.
it's a whole new world that people are learning to deal with.
Yeah,
Right.
I see it
Teaching-
changing from like, you know, I've been doing this 8 or 9 years. How long you been doing it?
Going on 12 years now.
Yeah. So from the beginning of me doing it, like you can scroll back to the beginning of my Instagram and see like I was pumping out videos for these kids that I was throwing BP to and doing hitting and throwing
Yeah.
and all stuff too. But like you can see the genesis of it from where it's evolved to where it is now.
It's another cool thing kind of about it. Every now and then you see tweets from back in the day, and you're like, damn, I don't know if I would say it like that.
Yeah.
Or,
Well,
you know, and it kind of holds you accountable too as a coach
Yeah.
when you put things out there in public, which I think is important. You know, when you're in a one-on-one session, you know, it's one-on-one, but when you say things, you know, in my case, you know, I have 40,000 plus followers, so, you know, there you go. We'll brush the shoulders off.
Yeah. But that just doesn't
But
happen.
it holds you
that way.
accountable though, and I think that's the thing is when you see the trolls that have 25 followers, when they have 100 followers,
They got the no profile picture and like the no posts and following 3 people, like
Right.
you can literally just do the math and like, oh, you're following these.
is
3
that
people?
worse
That's
or like
someone's hack account
500
right there.
followers? Like 500 followers, it's like, oh, that's my personal account. So you're just
Yeah,
like
but-
a human
but
being
this-
that just sucks.
The whole private, unprivate thing, and then like somebody attacks a video of a kid throwing, and they're not willing to like put their face in front of it.
Right.
That's the thing that cracks me up.
and they
about
don't
it.
know what the pretense is behind that throw or behind that swing or behind that drill.
So instead of asking, they're just telling you
Just quick
what's
to,
going on.
and that's something that I've learned. If you're a young coach listening to this, it's quick to judge everything, and it's something that I try to teach my players to do. Is you're going to run into a bunch of different coaches, and they're going to say things different than I'm going to say them. it's kind of your job to find the purpose and kind of the intent, like the good intent behind that. Even though it may not be said the way it be said. Like, I haven't met a coach that's trying to hurt a guy. They all trying to help guys, and like I said, the verbiage might be different, and even the message is a little different. But it's kind of our job as players to kind of read between the lines and see how I can really see what he's trying to get me to do when a guy, so.
Well, it sounds like you do what we do. Like, we explain the goal, and like some people use different language or you see different things. And like the goal is still to throw a strike or strike a guy out or get the out or have a clean inning. That's always the goal. The goal is never to walk a guy.
Right.
And that's one of the things that cracks me up about, we have people critiquing 13 and 14-year-old kids, not like, but you're comparing it to a major league professional who like they act like. I was watching the playoff game the other day, and Verlander started off the game and missed like 9 out of 10 spots.
Right.
Like literally missed 9 to start the first inning, but still made it through it. And everybody talks about location, be accurate, and all this stuff. I'm like, come on, bro. Like, he literally missed 9 out of 10 pitches, but still got out of it because he's throwing hard, he's throwing nasty pitches, and it is what it is. And like people just don't put that
playing
together.
the game.
Yeah, exactly.
He's playing the game.
And he knows that he has, as a guy that used to throw hard when I was young and when I did pitch, like, if you don't need that, you always have your velocity for the most part, especially if it's good velocity. I didn't always have my location. If I had my location and I had my velocity, then it was game, set, match. But I always felt like at least I could just compete with just throwing the ball over the plate somehow with my velocity.
Yeah.
And I think, I think kind of that's what we saw when you see a
And
guy
it's
like that do
17
that and get away with
inches,
the plate.
It's 17 inches, so like the fact, like being here and being here is the matter of like 3 or 4 inches, and it's crazy. Like,
And we're talking about big leaguers.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not
Yeah.
talking about
exactly. And
freshman
you got
JV
it,
kids,
exactly. And there's so many other mental things that go on into that, especially where a kid goes from middle school to high school and he's into a program that's really, really good, and maybe he wants to make varsity, so like his own anxiety goes through the roof because he's like trying to be perfect and be really good and do all that stuff. And instead of like, dude, you throw, like, just throwing gas to me and throwing hard and all that stuff is so much more of an internal feeling than an actual number to me. Because we all know, I mean, you remember, you can probably go in your brain right now and be like, I remember I absolutely ripped this baseball one time and I didn't miss a spot.
No,
You know what I mean?
I only, I played varsity baseball as a 14-year-old freshman on the #1 high school team in the country, and was expected to make it. And so that's a lot of pressure going into that. And I didn't have the best tryout. I think I gave up back-to-back home runs against guys that were D1 first-rounder guys.
Yeah.
And then I came back with, FU fastballs over the middle of the plate. But because I could throw the ball hard, because I competed, I was able to get out of that. I wasn't 80 miles an hour trying to hit a corner, and it just wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
It just wasn't. So, again, back to your point of being able to throw hard and being able to have that in my pocket, I think was vital to me as a young player, being able to play up and being able to compete with the older guys that were throwing harder and doing those things.
I think it really helps too with secondary pitches, because like we have our guys who love ripping sliders and curveballs because they understand you got to throw it really hard, and then the harder you throw it, the better the action, the more spin that you get on it. And like we'll see some of the stuff in the gym, and they'll throw some curveballs or sliders, and we're like, that was amazing. Can you do it again? And so we're just trying to get them to repeat those nasty Chris Sale sliders and do all those stuff where they're understanding how to do it. I don't feel like that they throw at those max intent situations enough, and to be able to feel like, can you make it do that multiple times in a row?
Well, now you're talking about teaching guys how to, whether you want to call it throw the right way or pitch. I think a lot of people will call it now you're teaching guys how to pitch. Which, like I said, I don't think I was always kind of.
So the parallel is the swing versus like teaching kids how to hit, right? And like, so how do you have that conversation? Then we can tell you how we would have the conversation on the pitching side.
Hitting is almost more mental stuff that you can control. Your approach, your vision, which is a physical thing. I think it has to do with your hitting, your body control. Which again kind of tinkers into swing. It's kind of are you a hitting coach or are you a swing coach?
Yeah. What does that mean?
Right, exactly. And like I said, I think if you really break down what hitting is, a lot of it is mental and a lot of it is body control when it comes to being able to, and when people talk about a swing that has adjustability, I don't buy into a swing that has adjustability. I think a good hitter can adjust, a swinger can't. So the things that it takes for you to adjust are kind of the things that it takes for you to be a hitter.
It's not hard to adjust. You just have to be willing to adjust.
I agree.
Yeah, and you have to train it. And
Sorry, that should have been a question. I was like thinking that through. Like, is that a good way to think about it?
yeah, you have to be willing to do it, but you also have, that being said, you have to be, you got to be able to do it, but you have to be willing to do it. You have to, and back to me is I never really trained how to do it. I was always, and maybe it was because I was a throw hard guy. I always set myself up to hit the hard stuff, and I was really good at not really good, not as good as I like, but I got good at being able to recognize and take curveballs to the point to where, I never really swung at a curveball on purpose, which again, probably not the smartest thing to do when I'm getting a lot of them. So I never really learned how to hit per se. I was always a really good swinger. I think it was kind of where I would say I maxed out at.
It's a super
I
interesting
learned how to
concept.
swing really good.
It's a super interesting concept because it makes me think about, I'm always leaning on my experience of what happened. Because, my entire game was changed when I went to Mexico and played down there. And I just saw so many crazy things.
Right.
I should have I'm going to send you a buddy of mine who plays down in, he's a Dominican guy. He plays in summer, and he plays in summer in TJ and then winter in Los Mochis where I played. And he hit the first home run of the season of winter ball. And he sat on a curveball that was 72 miles an hour that was going to hit his back foot, stepped in the bucket, and hit it out of the stadium.
Right.
And just absolutely golfed it. And it, always, the adjustment and training the thing, that was the thing that was crazy to me, where it was I tell him all the time, I can literally tell when there's an American hitter in the box because they're always balanced, they're on time, everything's good posture, whatever. And then when you see the Latin guys, it's a lot more flow. They're willing to dive out over the plate and go rip a ball, or wait for you to throw the curveball, and he changes his body position, as you would say, and changes the alignment and just absolutely golfs it 450 over, out of the stadium, and I'll send it to you. And he's awesome to watch because every hack is a G hack, and it's always a bat flip, and he's smiling, and he's such a good dude, and everybody just plays a different game down there. So it's interesting that you say that because I totally agree, and to what you see with what you see happening here, especially in Southern California with the pitching and the hitting and stuff, do you feel like guys are athletic enough, with their approaches, or do you feel like they're very cookie cutter?
I think their approaches, again, that's something, I think the approaches are very cookie cutter. That's something I was thinking of on the drive here, was it's almost something, approaches can't be generic. The approach has to be how to learn your own approach, because the pitcher should be, and this is, again, I look at, I'm fortunate enough to work with good players, good hitters. So you can't sit at 7 o'clock and talk about almost what they're going to get at 7. It's because the game is going to dictate that. Again, who they're, if you're playing high school baseball and some of the guys, and you're the 3 hitter or the 4 hitter, you're not going to get pitched the same as the 1 hitter and the 7 and the 8 and the 9 hitter, and really probably anybody else, depending on who you are. So it's hard to say, hey, dude, this, we should hunt fastballs 9 out of 10 times and do this and do that. I think, like you said, you need to teach a hitter how to come up with his own plan and how to make sure he knows himself, to see what the pitcher is doing, to see what the pitcher is capable of doing. When he gets in certain counts, knowing what the pitcher has to do and okays you to do certain things. Again, creating a swing that has balance and allows you to see the ball so we can adjust to off-speed pitches, even though I might be hunting fastballs and not just selling out for the fastball. So yeah, those things I think are not talked about enough because it's very individual. It should be based on the individual, which everyone wants to just have a quick 5-minute conversation on approach.
When does this start? Are you 12?
For me, I think it starts when you start seeing a curveball.
Right.
As soon as you start seeing curveballs consistently, there needs to be a, hey man, this is what we're looking to do. Or
Yeah.
I think at some point when you start seeing pitches that are different speeds, that the idea of what or again, when this is the beautiful thing about you know, I try to seek out guys talking as much as possible. That's one thing that I think goes underestimated when you play pro baseball is people kind of, you know, I hear it a lot that it doesn't matter if you play pro ball, and I agree with that a lot because it's not like I played pro ball for a long time. It's not like I played pro ball and got to AAA, so I didn't have the best pro ball experience, right? I'm very close to not being a pro baseball player if you look at my baseball resume as far as pro ball goes. So I'm all for guys that don't have experience in pro ball, but there's a big learning curve when you are there and you are watching the way guys talk and the way guys go about their business.
Totally agree.
But we were just talking about. I just kind of went off.
When's the approach start? That's what he was going on. Like you said, he's doing the curveball from there.
And I forgot exactly where I was going with that, man.
It's okay.
Jesus.
I agree with you because like our experiences were completely different. Like you being an affiliated guy and playing, and then I was not an affiliated guy, right? Like I had a couple years in indie ball. That really taught me a lot more too because of the indie ball conditions that I played. I played in the Pecos League, the worst league in America.
Saw the show.
But it's all like elevated mountain baseball. And me being a Florida guy, I'm not used to like balls flying like that. We have a lot more humidity. The game is literally different,
Right.
And so playing in a 7,000 elevation stadium, it's also like a 13U field where it's like 270 to right, 350 to center, 330 to the left. Like you have to learn how to not let the guy hit the ball because if he touches it, it's gonna hit the wall. And that's similar to what's happening in Major League Baseball right now. Where the balls are flying, juiced or not juiced, or high seams or low seams, what everybody's saying. The ball is still leaving significantly faster than it was 5 years ago, 1 year ago, whatever it is.
And I think what's interesting is that we're having this conversation, and I think like if we think about what's going on Twitter, like people don't talk about the fact that like baseball in Minnesota is a lot different than baseball in Southern California. It's a lot different than I bet in Texas, and different than New York. Like there are actually like I don't mean to say it this way, but that's the only way I can think about it. Like there are literally cultural differences like within like states,
But they're all good and bad.
Right. So there's
and
that's what makes the game really good because everybody has their own approach, and you kind of have to adjust to what is given.
But people can't have this conversation when they don't know how to develop. Is like where I want to bring it back to is like this idea that like we have the luxury of having this conversation of teaching kids how to play the game and like what kinds of games there are out there because we know how to develop.
Right.
And we feel really confident in that.
And so even the things that what you were saying too, I'll go back to what you're saying on the development side, like these kids that need to learn how to hit a curveball, right? I was told the same thing in high school where just don't swing at it. First pitch curveball, don't swing. I was a 4-hole first baseman, it is what it is.
Sorry, I get excited. Because what everything looks like right now is just like everything thrown on the table. And like we need to help people prioritize the things that are important, right? So if we want to be this college baseball player, like we need to be having conversations to people, whether they're, that's why I'm asking, like approach. When is that important? Because like when we think about that from a pitching side of things, like my approach is like teaching kids sequencing, right? Like, so I don't want to teach that to an 8-year-old unless that 8-year-old is like showing me that he's ready for that. I also don't want to teach a 16-year-old that if he's showing me that he's not ready for that.
All right, you got me back to where I was. Yeah. I remember what I was saying. I've been mad about it. So I try when you're in pro ball, right? They downplay what you're able to hear, the conversations that you're able to be told or just be around. And what I try to do is I try to present when guys do talk about their approach that people can hear it, right? So, or at least hear the part that I wanted you to hear of it. And Donaldson talked about something the other day where he talked that when they talk about approach, which I think is very valid for young players, because I look back at my approach when I was young, I didn't really have one because there weren't pitchers that threw hard enough to force me to have one.
Need one.
Yeah.
Right?
Or a dude with 6 pitches.
They all had 6 pitches, but they couldn't throw.
But
100%.
Exactly. Someone that was carving and doing his thing.
So sometimes you don't need an approach because the guy doesn't throw hard enough for you to have one. It's see-ball, hit ball, his fastball and his curveball. It's not hard enough for you to be able to go, hey, sit on the fastball. So yes,
so training patterns are often reflective of the environment, right? So like
the
what you're
individual.
right, but like in Minnesota, for example, like everybody can get away with saying hunt fastballs. So you're going to see it at the D1, D2, D3, at all of the facilities, because that's the kind of baseball that exists there. Because like from my point here, nobody knows how to teach throwing in the whole entire Midwest. Like, I don't see that. Like, and I know that's aggressive, but like it's really uncommon, and they don't throw enough, and like there's so many layers to it, right? And this bleeds into, that means we don't see that good of pitching. That means we don't see a lot of breaking balls that are actually thrown over the plate. So that completely changes it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
No, there's
and so I'm going to give my perspective from the pro side versus not, because I'm the D3 guy that's out of the loop on that. And it's like, if from my perspective, I have always taken it, I need to listen to everybody that I ever talk to that has been in the program and understand what it's like. Like, what, from my perspective, not being in that, there's this camaraderie of just like being in it. Like, this sucks. Like, a lot of the things about minor league baseball is not great, right? And everybody that creates things, think about anything. Like, I'm in CrossFit right now. Who likes CrossFit? That's the dumbest thing ever. But I love CrossFit because of what it creates, right? We get to share this terrible experience every morning at 6:30 in the morning, right? Like, and it's the same thing. So if you can't acknowledge that and you haven't played the program, it's 2 strikes against you. Because if you're in the program and you don't acknowledge it, at least you're in the program and you're making that conscious decision. Right. So you have to like making these acknowledgments, and so these people that are bringing it back to this, like, I can't use like anybody that's like technology based, that they're coming into these conversations because of their knowledge in technology, or their knowledge in marketing, or their knowledge in anything else. They actually have valuable things to tell us in the game, but having how to say that and like bridging that gap is obviously a big thing that's happening now, and which is why you're seeing people being hired off Twitter because they know how to manage a Rhapsody thing, and hopefully they have some feel is what they're looking for.
Yeah.
And so that's where we're at.
Yeah. It seems like there's a liaison right now happening where it's like you have this wealth of knowledge on these experienced guys that are coaches, and then there's all of this technology over here, and they've already, they don't understand it. It doesn't make sense, right? So they're hiring this one guy that goes like, well, spin rate really just means that if you can increase it, then it makes it harder to hit in certain situations. Or in other situations where you decrease the spin rate, where it makes it harder to hit in that situation. You know, like they were showing Strasburg's spin rate, and it was the lowest spin rate of all of the changeups being thrown. That's also why it has so much more depth, because it has less gravity, it doesn't fight it, and it just dives more. It's a harder pitch to hit. And like everybody's that I've heard recently has been talking about, oh, you want spin rate to go up on everything. Well, it's like, well, that just defies the physics of what's going on to that. And if you don't have anybody that can explain that process to somebody, then what are we talking about?
And make it also not sound like that too. And you're seeing that too now, where like it is for sure a thing that we are paying attention to the fact that people don't always want to know their spin rates. And like, I know this has always been a thing, but it's more obvious right now that, we're having this conversation the other day about if you have a place that can do force plates and edgertronics and all of these things, you're showing people like, great, like that's, if I'm a pro, I'm going there. But if I'm everybody else, I need something that I can like manage, that I can do on my own, right? It doesn't cost me $7,000 to like get this set up to like train the right way, or to play the game the right way, or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. Bringing it back to giving people something that they can take away, I think is really, like you said earlier, we're all trying to solve the same exact problem. Yep. We all are trying to do that. So,
well, and that's when people come to you or they come to us, there's almost some, help me out with this, because what I see with people when we ask them the first question on the first day, like, what do you want to help us with? And then like the questions that we get with people are like, I want to throw harder. Right. And then I'm like, okay, cool. You want to throw harder. Do you know what that means? Why do you want to throw harder? What do you feel like that's going to help you with? And then most of them just haven't thought past that one question. Right. They're like, well, I think if I throw harder, and then most of the time it turns into, if I throw harder, then I'll get a chance to pitch. Right. Like, I don't throw hard enough to just get a chance from my coach, because there's some outfielder throwing missiles, but he doesn't know where it's going, but he's going to get a chance. And I saw the same thing when I was coming up and rehabbing and doing everything. Like, there was a guy I specifically remember going to a tryout in Miami, and this guy was throwing next to me. And at the University of Miami, down the first base line, the bullpen faces the wrong direction, and I threw my first pitch and hit 91 right there and spotted it beautifully. And the guy next to me hit 96 and threw it out of the stadium over the fence at left field. And I remember looking at it, and I'm like, there's no way this dude, because you had to like earn your right to go like 3 or 4 hours to face batters is what you had to do. And I remember like just boom, boom, boom. They stopped me after like 7 or 8 pitches. Yeah, you're good. You moved on. Cool. And they just kept this guy throwing. And he didn't throw one strike. Didn't throw one strike. And it was 96, 97, 96, 95, 98. All right, cool. And then he's the first one to go in the live at bat thing, and he threw it over the turtle. Threw it over the turtle. He bounced one. 2 guys walked out of the thing. We're like, nah, I'm not hitting. And then sure enough, he gets signed. You know, because someone's like, well, you know, they think at the time that you can teach command, which I know we can teach command because we, you know, you and I talked about that whole thing of it. But those experiences and those things that really what I think Twitter and Instagram are is where we're sharing our own personal anecdotal evidence of like what we have seen, what we have done, and try to validate it with other conversations of pointing in the direction of selling the idea with Twitter and Instagram, with Donaldson, Bregman,
Right.
you know, Scherzer. You know, it allows for a greater good conversation if people come in open-minded, but you also have that same thing where people just attack for no reason the wrong things and they're not interpreting correctly what they see.
Yeah, no, it's, you know, the first question I always ask my guys is, you know, if you can get better at one thing today, what would it be? Just kind of a broad question to just kind of like, what's the, you know, where do you feel the biggest hole is? And then, you know, we'll take some swings, tee, video camera, and we'll kind of go from there to, you know, and kind of figure out the why and, you know, what's going on. But yeah, I mean, I think just getting guys to understand really what a good swing consists of, I think is the most important thing. And you know how, you know, what their best swing is, and
What is that?
like I said, it's so different for everybody. You know, obviously there's all these things that we can talk about as far as balance and loading sequentially and unloading sequentially, and
You want to start with balance?
Yeah, I mean, balance. What's your question about balance?
So I think it's one of those things that is thrown around really carelessly.
Yep.
And so I'm always. So do you know Green Light Hitting with Kyle Wagner? Okay, so we have a podcast with Kyle Wagner. You should watch it. He's brilliant. He had a Little League team go to win the Little League World Series on the state side. Didn't win the whole thing, but anyway.
Pennsylvania?
Yes.
Go Wags, yeah.
Yeah, go Eggs.
Yeah, we played them maybe 2 years ago in
Yeah.
Georgia, Arizona.
Yeah, so he's brilliant. And their whole thing was there's literally a hashtag, balance steals athleticism. With the idea of, back to what we were saying earlier, like being willing to adjust your swing, I think is the whole point. Like, I'm not going to sit here and the American version that you talk about of the guys he's going to swing and miss to have the perfect swing on that 0-2 fastball in the dirt, or curveball in the dirt. Like, where you're going to have people willing to fall over to turn fast and hit bombs. And so you saw, like, that was really attractive to me. Like, I thought from a kid's standpoint, what's more fun than just swinging the crap out of it?
Right.
I don't know where I'm going with this besides intent-based balance. And so then, like, I have come to appreciate balance a lot more as I've gotten older, and like that says so many things to me. But people don't say all the things that balance means, right? So like shin and spine angle, that's a great way to think about balance. Like that's a very vivid. Oh, if I line up my shin and my spine, that's a way for me to measure if I'm staying balanced. And then I suppose like a side to side, like where are we looking for balance might be a place to start. You know, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like that's what it's been to me. So balance to me is also like from a swing standpoint, this new idea of not going backward. Like that would be a balanced way for me to swing. So
which is very hard to do if you have a wide setup and a wide stance, right?
Totally. So what is balance?
So balance to me is just really controlling your center is controlling your center of mass. You know, like I said, whether you have no leg kick, you know, you're controlling your center of mass. You're kind of pivoting a little bit more around your spine, I guess. Certain guys are, maybe not so much, but like I said, there's just a little bit more control of your center of mass. And then, like I said, the bigger leg kick guys is controlling your center of mass as you go up and then controlling it as you go down, versus your narrow leg kick guys that kind of pick it up nice and easy, kind of like more of like a pitcher. and then controlling your center of mass as you go forward. So, like I said, whether it's sequential.
Controlling your center of mass would be a first way to think about it.
Right.
Okay, you don't think of upper half? So I thought that was interesting. Are you thinking legs?
No,
like,
yes,
where
yes.
do you
Well,
find?
I mean, I think when I think of upper half, I'm kind of put that together with both, right? When I look at lower half, I don't think about feet too much. To me, the lower half, I don't really use the word lower half much. I use the word, I talk more about the butt, which, I don't know what you would consider your butt. What do you consider the glutes? Lower half or core?
Oh, yeah, I would say lower half.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then I do, but I just I look at the butt and the core almost as one and the same. And again,
Keep going. I want to
so
know. What do you mean?
so the feet, I guess the feet are feet being in the ground are important to me. And like I said, really making sure that the butt and the core are connected, and that they're, like I said, when I think about the center of mass, I think about making sure that the core, the butt, and the head are on top of each other, and that the lower back and the glutes are firing. And to me, when you have a bigger movement forward, loading sequential, I feel like when you have a bigger movement forward, obviously controlling your shoulders and knowing where your shoulders or your hands are very important. I feel like most of the time having a little bit of a scap load as you're having a forward move with that center of mass, to keep it in line is usually the best way of going about it. I think obviously there's not a lot of guys, but there's certain guys that don't have a lot of shoulder movement or hand movement as they go forward. And that's why I'm very careful on saying that you absolutely have to do certain things. But I think, like I said, the tendency to control your center of mass is as I'm going forward to make sure that I'm loading my shoulder backwards even a little bit. And I think that's the thing that most guys skip is the little bit part. That even though it's happening a little bit and it's not happening as much as Donaldson,
because
it's
that's
still
not
happening.
balanced, because they get themselves out of balance. So if I may keep going with it, to me it's this idea of like understanding where the center is and understanding where neutral, and that's to me is like understanding balance from that standpoint. And that the farther away that I go from that center or that balance, that I'm taking a risk by being there, right? So I could get my arm way away from me and turn like a top as fast as I can, and I would throw the ball hard, but like I know that that's not the best way for me to do that.
Right.
So managing that.
And making sure that when guys are, that they maintain their alignment, because that's what you see with the Twitter craze, especially, with Donaldson. You see the big kind of movement here, and a lot of young hitters, especially when they hit off the tee, the vision, their eyes, what they don't take in the hand is when I'm hitting, my eyes are out in front. So when I'm loading around my spine or around my hip, my eyes, again, if I make sure my vision is good, my eyes will almost kind of keep me from swiveling around too much and over rotating my shoulders. We're off the tee, kids.
That's the second time you brought that up. I'm just highlighting it, and keep going with it because we talk about it all the time. That's the second time you brought it up, so maybe like vision and balance are like right away jumping out.
100%.
Keep going, because what you were just saying about, okay, if I keep my eyes there, it restricts me from doing too much.
Right. To where when my eyes are on the tee, it's very easy to do too much. Thus, when I get to my land and my launch position, I have to do too much to kind of.
This is one of the
swing
most
started.
obvious reasons to not do tee work. Like one of the most obvious arguments. I'm not saying don't do tee work. I'm saying like there lies a really strong argument for like the appropriateness and understanding how to individualize your program for each kid.
It just shows how lazy coaches are teaching the tee. It's like, here's a tee, instead of like, hey, here's a tee.
Here are your tendencies when you have this.
Like, let's use your imagination. Let's see the ball coming out of the hand. Let's not take a swing. Let's take a pitch off the tee.
Yeah, and when you take that stride, it's on your belly button,
right.
And like when are you hitting the ball like that?
That's a whole nother.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean the tee again. That's kind of we had a Twitter question from JT, asking about when you should use the tee. And again, the tee is awesome. It's a matter of
JT.
Junior Taylor.
Oh yeah.
Junior, love that guy.
You know, when she use the tee, and like I said, the tee is great. High tee is good. You know, if you ask anybody, you know, again, you know, the repetition of doing something right, there's a lot of value to that.
For sure.
It's just, are you doing it right?
And then that goes into another thing, like on your expert side of it, and I'll explain my feelings afterwards. Do you feel like enough people translate the tee to the game?
Unfortunately, when they do it, yeah, well, there's a lot of bad stuff taken to the tee. I would say that they don't take the game to the tee. They take the tee to the game and they do it poorly, but they don't take the game to the tee. So when they're
put that on a shirt,
yeah. Because like,
Jeez.
for example, like one of the things that I look for, and especially with young kids, we talk about it all the time. You can probably see it. I don't know if this is something you see, but I can tell when I'm facing a guy when he starts to swing and he looks behind the barrel. That
Right.
means that's a big tee guy, and normally that guy misses pitches down. Had an argument with someone the other day talking about Arenado does it, right? I think he's just the anomaly. He's always been able to like throw, but you're acting like what I'm saying is someone is focusing their vision to this spot 3 to 4 feet away from it, and you're looking at it trying to see the ball hit the bat, even though that everybody says you can't see it, right? And most big leaguers that I've faced are the people that have done stuff when their vision stays up and the barrel comes into their vision as they go to it. That's a guy that I'm gonna be a little more threatened for. But if I see someone look down while they swing, then I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna bounce stuff all day and you're gonna miss it. Because if I throw something that moves late, you're cheating and you're gonna be literally looking to the spot and try to see it.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like there's holes and stuff and there's techniques, and on the flip side of the pitching thing is like this is all super interesting to me, because if I know it's the old chess thing. If I know your approach, if I know your strategy, if I know what you're trying to do against me, I do the opposite. Right? And so that's where the game is not being taught. If we went in the backyard and played wiffle ball,
I would throw you straight curveballs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I have to earn it.
You know what I mean? Exactly.
Earn it.
Right?
Just you specifically.
And to me, it cracks me up because like this side of the game is such a weird thing where like when we did our live at bat thing, I do remember one guy that was kind of a newer guy that came in and he faced a kid, and I remember talking to the kid, and we always try to evaluate the person as they get in the box. Like I know if you're Jordaned out, you got gloves, you got the wristbands and everything, you got the C-flap and everything you do, and you're swinging the new bat. There's only two versions of you. You're either really good or you're flashy, right? But either way, why would I throw that person first pitch fastball? Right? Like, why would you do that? It just doesn't make sense. Yeah, I'm going to learn way more about if I throw you first pitch curveball just to see what you're going to do. Because if you take it like you're supposed to, all right, you know what you're doing.
So I hear John talk about, like, I watch him, and he's been doing it more. When you watch a game and you, like, predict things and, like, say these, all he's doing is, like, practicing out loud, like, what he thinks is going to happen. And then just, like, he's done that. He's had the courage to say, well, this guy looks like he sucks. And I would play it this way if he was for sure sucky.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
If I see a little
Sucky.
skinny string bean dude and he's standing far off the plate and the bat looks like it's like barely holding.
Why would you ignore that? And
Yeah,
people
it is.
ignore this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
I talk to my hitters about it all the time, and like I said, you hit to your personality, and the examples I use are we just kind of cut it to
You
like three
hit
different,
to your personality.
like three different types of personalities.
Put that on a
Or
shirt.
we'll just put that. We'll categorize those three.
Dude.
You have like you're calm, so like Tony Gwynn and Albert Pujols, right? Like very soft spoken, quiet guys. And if you look at their movements, they kind of resemble their personalities.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's go to the most extreme: David Ortiz and Josh Donaldson, right?
Jose Bautista.
Right.
The old school. Yeah.
Right? And you can see it in the way they walk down the street, that they have big ass leg kicks. And then you could look at a Carlos Correa, you could look at Adrian Gonzalez, who are somewhere right in the middle, right? If you've talked to them or if you've been around them, you could see that their personalities, they have that fire, but they're not on the same level.
Yeah.
And they're right in the middle, little medium leg kicks, and so to me, yeah, you have to. And if Donaldson tried to hit like Gwen, or if Gwen tried to hit like Donaldson,
Yeah.
it would not work. So you have to kind of make sure that as a hitting coach, that you take in their personality to the way they move and the way they go about their swing, as far as I'm concerned.
It's the smartest thing I've heard in a long time, dude.
Yeah, it's really good because like pitching wise, it's almost the same thing. It's like how you want to pitch the way that your personality is doing it. Like if you throw hard and you lean on your fastball and what you're doing, well, you just need to learn how to when to throw a strike and when not to throw a strike and what you're trying to do against the guy. And what's cool with the game is that you know you can watch the World Series and literally see that when you like we got Cole and Severino going tonight, and I'm betting that the first 5 pitches of the game, 3 of them are going to be off speed.
Just to see what's, and then you got shadows.
Exactly. There's a whole other thing to this thing, and it's like everybody's coming out not the way it used to be. Like Nolan Ryan's concept, I'm going to throw my fastball until you prove to me that you can hit it. Like nobody cares anymore because we got pitching machines that go up to 120 miles an hour. Like if Nolan Ryan pitched today, he'd be very upset with the baseballs, with the strike zone.
Approach a little bit.
Exactly, for sure. He would, and he, you know, I think he talked about he developed a slider like 3 or 4 years into the major leagues. Like he was a 2-pitch fastball curveball guy, and I keep saying this recently too. You can't like. Unfortunately, with Kershaw, like I've been on point with him, but you cannot be a 2-pitch guy, especially when you know you're a curveball guy and you don't throw it. Like if we break down the 6 or 7 pitches that he threw 3 cutters in a row. Cade Eaton came out, threw first pitch curveball to Rendon, bounced it, react terribly to it. Right, told the entire stadium I can't throw my curveball today. Rendon moves up in the box. Next, he tries to bounce a cutter and he golfs it, 430 down the line. And everybody's like, oh, it was such a good pitch. I'm like, nah, bro, I've seen these big leaguers know what's coming and not miss it. That's what that is.
And that was the other thing too, like, again, on Twitter, everyone giving credit to the swing about like, when the game 5, when the Astros were playing the Rays and they had and Ganslow was tipping all the pitches.
Yeah.
Everyone's talking about like, oh, look at their early connection and look at this and look at that. And you're like, nah, bro.
Yeah,
they knew every pitch that was coming.
Everything that was coming. Yeah,
so
he screwed up. Yeah,
like again, swing mechanics, all that stuff is important. But when a big league hitter knows what's coming, dude, like
especially 100 and like even if it's got a little cut to it, like they're gonna figure it out.
And that's all they care about. Like I have buddies that are in the Dodgers, coaches in the Dodgers organization, and he's like, dude, like, that sign stuff that you see, that like, that is the realest. Like the Dodgers and other organizations will say that they win and they lose World Series according to having signs, other guys having signs. Like it's.
What signs are you talking about? Relaying? Or are you talking about what?
What pitches?
Oh, okay.
Catcher sign, catcher to the pitcher. Knowing those signs.
Oh yeah, was the runner on second base or just like
everything?
The TV thing.
No, the runners on second base more
for
so.
Sure, 100%.
Like that's.
Oh my!
That's what chases the guys in the dugout. Finding out, hey, this guy exactly what Ganslow was doing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like that's what Utley was on the Dodgers for last year. That was his role, was to.
It's the game.
That's
the game. It's the game. It's teaching the game. And there's so many different ways to relay nonverbal communication from a guy at second base to a guy at home hitting. And I say it all the time. Like there's so many pitchers that I run to that can't pitch out of the stretch in a pressure situation, an RBI situation. And like one of the things when we're watching a game over there, I'm going like, how many times I've seen a guy come in the game, RBI situation, he throws a first pitch fastball, gets up a double. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Well, that's one thing I will say. Like when I really learned how to play baseball when I went to high school, and I played for Sam Blaylock, who's got 900 varsity baseball wins, and as a base runner, and again being able to take all this to the hitting and the pitching standpoint, but as a base runner, what we were taught to look for as a pitcher was like so enlightening as a pitcher. Like again, everyone does the UCLA stuff, but we were actually just timing, like how long did he come set for? Was he an A, B, or C, which meant like did he move his head first, did he move his glove first, did he move his shoulder first, did he move his foot first? Like I don't hear that talked about anywhere. So when you have again on a micro scale, when you have a high school group that talented with that much information, knowing that hey, he's gonna come set for 2 seconds, or he's only gonna look once, or if he looks twice, he's not gonna look 3 times. So go. Like there's so many things that don't get talked about that make the game so much easier, that make hitting so much easier. And if they're making that many mistakes at the big league level, imagine what they're doing at the high school level.
Sure.
And it's like, dude.
And the thing that gets me so jacked up is this is low-hanging fruit. Like, this is what most youth coaches should be equipped with, is these things, because adults can understand these things and kids don't have the cognitive ability to like think these things up. It's harder for them to be creative and like really believe it. So you talked about like the swing coming from the personality, right? Like you have to like get kids to trust you and like have a relationship with them to understand what their swing might look like. Like I am such an overswinger, it's not even funny. I remember vividly as as I'm like 16, 17, 18 years old, like if I feel like I'm not swinging, I mash. And then everything in the culture of baseball, Twitter was like, intent. And so like literally I'm like, wow, I should feel like I'm not swinging again. And like when we tested it the other day, that was me just killing it and not trying at all. And it's so funny how that like my personality is, I always have to bring myself down.
But sometimes you need that intent to open up the natural movement.
But so if you know me, chill out, bro. Like that's everybody's message to me. So that's my swing, right? So like
I know, but the message is also like, but that's also going to be you. Like you're only going to be able to chill out so much.
Right, but then that right.
So
the
now
whole
it's like we got to control. We got to make sure that the body's moving in.
And
the
my
proper
point is
sequence, and
adults have the ability to like recognize personalities.
Yeah.
I don't need to teach the swing as much as I need to teach like, hey, you're freaking out in the box cast.
Right.
Why don't you just like chill out and just like barely hit the ball this next time?
Tell this kid next to him to freak out a little bit more.
Exactly. And so these are the things that my point, because I get a little jacked up when it comes to youth. I'm bringing it back to youth for a second here, because like the youth game can be. I mean I know it's literally a chess match between the coaches. Like what is that?
Yeah.
Who cares about that? And like that's a hard argument to make, but it's better when you have a better solution, right? And so like, hey, these are your strengths as an adult. Like giving them structure that actually matters. Like you use the structure to implement the things that they normally wouldn't do, and then you have to like leave the freedom for them to be kids. And like this really complicated thing is actually really simple. Why don't you just like be an adult in front of them? Like do the things that you already have. Yeah. Don't create new skill sets. It's really hard, and I hope you can attest to this. It's really hard to understand the swing. It's constantly evolving about how we talk about it. Like what, you might see a guy take a swing, like, oh, even just like Acuna, how Acuna swings, or like how Derek Jeter swings with that barrel float. Like my brain is like, what is that?
Right.
Like how does that compare that to a cargo?
Right.
Like what's going on? And I don't expect somebody who's they're a mortgage broker, 80 hours or 40 hours a week to know these things. And that's just a hard position to be in. I wish the conversation was so much more out there, right? Because every time I have this conversation with people, are like, those youth coaches that don't have a degree in kinesiology, but like can read about it online, like just be who you are too, right. And allow them to be who they are. Because we're sitting over here going, we're the specialists, and we're still saying the same shit.
Right.
We're saying like, you need to know who they are. And that's crazy. That's swing like your personality.
Yeah,
it's
crazy. That Derek Jeter's skip the ball to right field guy. If you think about Derek Jeter.
No, exactly.
He's a super flashy dude.
Yeah, always loud.
Yeah, always loud. Cool. I had a question independently for something I've thought about for a long time. Something that I heard a former big leaguer say to me that made a lot of sense to like my own pitching strategy to a bunch of guys. Me being a cutter, slider, change up, fastball guy, curveball too, like just everything what I can. But do you feel like you have to learn different swings for different pitches? Yeah. Because that's something he said to me that I never really heard before. Like,
different swings for different pitches.
And maybe it's like different contact angles, but just like the word swing in general to him. Like he felt like, and he was really good, by the way, at like adjusting to things and hitting things certain ways.
Yeah, I think it just goes back to not being physically or mentally committed to hitting only one pitch. Obviously that involves training, doing other things, hitting balls super out in front, hitting balls super deep, hitting balls, hitting sunflower seeds and doing things that will almost force you to kind of freak your body out. So yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't think that was the goal in mind before he swung the bat, was to hit the ball like this or hit the ball at an awkward angle.
Right.
But I think, like I said, incorporating.
I was imagining when you said that, like him imagining, oh, I've hit this ball 13,000 times. I know exactly what that swing feels like, and that this swing feels a little bit differently. Like that might have been.
That was his thing. His thing was that like he intentionally wanted to have a flat swing on a high fastball or a hanging curveball because he felt like he could get to the bottom half of it better.
Okay.
And then like a pitch that was down and away,
It's gonna be
he
steeper.
had to completely change his swing in order to get there. Even his body posture.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that's I think that maybe on your athleticism side and like being willing to get to that thing, maybe.
Well, that's where everyone is saying posture.
I think
now,
athleticism. Your mobility is definitely huge on your ability to maintain your posture, right? And again, I think it goes back to what we kind of talked about at your place, was going to a hitting lesson, paying X amount of dollars, and the guy just throwing fastballs down the middle, or going to a travel ball practice and getting 20 swings, and there's 10 to 20 kids there, and you need to hurry up and get their swings in. And if you throw a ball, you say, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know, if you throw a curveball and the kid looks like a dumbass, and now you look like you haven't really coached them the right way.
Exactly.
And now everyone's looking at him like, how come these guys are all getting fooled? Now you're like, no, we're just gonna hit fastball. So I think there's so many reasons why kids cannot adjust in the game. It goes back to the way they train, or the way they are trained. Is they are not trained to adjust, therefore they don't adjust.
Yeah. Like I hit pretty well through high school, and I always felt like our BP, like we had a money BP guy, but I always felt as a disservice because it was like it wasn't hard. And then my dad would come in and just absolutely carve me up.
For me, it was like it was the same thing. I'll tell everybody. Like again, the reason I played again. I made the varsity team in my tryout. The 8th pick overall started against the tryout guy, so it was like the number 1 high school team minus a left fielder versus guys that have never played varsity baseball before. So I was hitting leadoff. First pitch, let's say it's 92 because I know the guy was up to 98. Say it's 92 and I hit it off the left field wall. So clearly I made the team there by taking that guy off the wall and pulled it, all that good stuff. So I was able to do that because I trained 85 from the time I was 9 years old and failed at all that shit.
85 at 9?
85 at 9.
That's awesome.
And as long
That's
as, but I wasn't hitting it. But as long as I wasn't crying about not hitting it,
sure.
we were
Like,
going to get ice cream. And
probably
it was
scared as crap, right? Like just fear for your life.
100%.
That's awesome.
But come Judgment Day at 14 years old, again, living in New York, did not know that we were going to move to California, we were going to move to Florida or Arizona, did not know that we were going to move to Rancho Bernardo, that was going to be the best high school team in the country. Didn't really take in the fact that I was going to be a 14-year-old freshman. So just by having kind of a crazy dad who experienced having boys before, was like, this is what you're going to do. And it just so happened like I needed to do that if I was going to succeed, because if all those stars aligned and I didn't train that way, I wouldn't have been able to do that. Now that being said, it was like to the point to where like if I saw a curveball, like I couldn't move. Like so like it helped and it worked, but again, there wasn't enough variety in it.
But agreed. But the difficulty of the situation.
Difficult.
There's so much to be learned from that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Just
Like-
difficult in its own does a lot.
We get a lot of kids in the first. Like,
Not complicated
probably,
either.
Yeah.
No.
The
But
first.
if you can
Face 85.
Yeah, but if you can mix it up, it's even better, which is really basically impossible to do unless you're seeing a guy
Well, it's
like yourself.
It's until though you have the skill set of crushing the 85. You don't mix it up until you do it. Dude, you could.
Dude, these
you're
kids
not.
nowadays,
You're saying throw curveballs before you can hit the 85.
No, but I'm saying you have to train
think
to.
he's saying
You have
do
to.
both.
You have to train both. You
Yeah.
have to. You have
Oh,
to
just
learn
like
to,
separately, not
to
not
control,
literally.
Yeah, you have to learn
simultaneously.
to
Yeah.
to move neutrally to
So
85.
you
and
should
not
also
jump at
see an
85.
85-mile-an-hour slider at the same time. Like,
No, but I look at it like this: is like you should pick you should pick up as if you're gonna hit a fastball, but I gotta control my body as if a curveball's coming.
well, here, so I agree with that. So I'm saying like laying a foundation of like I'm saying the learning point that I'm taking from 85 is the fact that like that is the fastest way for you to get good at hitting. Like if you only focus on curveballs, like you're probably not going to gain that skill set as well as if you're challenged from a time standpoint. That's what makes
I agree with that.
that's what's hard about hitting. If everybody's 775,
exactly.
like nobody's disagreeing with that.
Right.
Right. So then it's like that's.
But then once
is what
once
happens
you
when
hit
that's
that first ball, all of a
only-
sudden it's
right.
curveball.
If that's what you, but that's balance and speaking of balance, right? Of course you have to
I
balance it
totally
out.
agree.
And that's the problem too. Is like you said, is like we work so much on being good fastball hitters, you know, and now it's like
And
as soon
straight,
as you
and by
hit-
the way, straight fastballs, straight four seamers, middle, belt high.
And
Yeah.
again, I just need to be clarified because I know who listens to it. So what most of the kids that you work with, how old are they?
they are 12 to 18.
Okay. Okay.
And again, so that's a big range, 12 to 18, and some of the 18-year-olds I work with are some of the best 18-year-olds. in the
Right. So
country.
some of these conversations will bleed a little bit more into the older guys. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah. And
Especially when it comes to approach. You
Right.
know, mechanics are mechanics.
the foundation, yes. Just as long, people just need to be aware of
You're
that.
getting
And
me
that's
excited because I want to go face
You
your
wanna go
guys'
throw?
tomorrow. I want to go face
dude,
your
I want
guys'
to,
tomorrow.
I want to see you throw because I saw you
It's
throw.
coming back. It's getting back.
Yeah,
I'm getting
yeah,
back
we
in the
want-
way.
we want a
Rules
Cutternation
helping,
you.
the
Yeah,
rules
yeah,
helping.
yeah.
Like,
I'm
oh,
making
yeah, look
sure
at
that I'm on time and.
You
That's
are
great.
though. You know
That's
you are.
great. That's great.
But
Cool.
to our point, like I spent so much time babying it, and I still remember you telling me, "Oh, I've seen you throw." I'm like, dude, like for the last 10 years, I've been trying not to throw hard. Of course, it's gonna have an effect.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm getting it back. I'm getting
And
it.
I'm gonna throw hard as long as I can. Like I pulled down 93 on Friday. I'm
But
fine.
what's great about it is like he throws soft the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, unless it's literally like one of these, you
Yeah.
know. But like that's how you don't.
I think it's a misconception to everything. It's like everybody wants to shorten things up. Like when we see BP throwers on TV when they show it, like the thing, we're always like, what is going on? Because the guy's like,
Yeah, that's so weird.
just there.
Is that
And it's
one
just like,
epic one of the-
oh yeah, this guy, the guy with like the flip
Yeah.
back and then the flip forward. Like
Yeah.
if I'm hitting in the big leagues from there, I'm just going like, can you just hire anybody from the
good.
DR and just do a
Really.
public service?
If I'm that guy, I'm not taking that money. Like I'm just like doing something. Nah, that's not me. I'm not getting on TV to do
But
that.
like on the same sense, like when I talk to a couple of Japanese guys that I played with, they have live hitting. They have an entire team that doesn't even play
Yeah.
with like multiple mounds that they put up temporarily, and they have 3 live BP situations going on. And there's a dude on the mound, and if they're gonna see a lefty that day, then they have 3 lefties, and everybody's gonna go through each each turtle that's on the field, and face something. It may not be the exact speed, right? But it's gonna be from the left side, throwing the pitches that guy's gonna throw.
Yeah, I presented that to a local major league team around here and gave them some ideas about that, and it's like it's the only thing that makes sense to do. Like, you know, why not have some prospects come throw, skip a little minor league start, and throw in front of all your scouts, throw to the big leaguers before the game, and I think the big thing is if I'm a big leaguer and I'm going against some kid in AA, and he just carved me up, and I got Kershaw on the bump, like I know I should feel better because I've seen it 3 or 4 times, but like mentally I don't. I feel like crap.
Well, then that's just not enough reps. That's not enough, because I'll
And
go
again,
into-
it's bad perspective too, because
It
I'll tell
is.
you if you're 0 for 4, then I'm like, well, then numbers say that you're gonna go 4 for 4 tonight against Kershaw. Like, there's like you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
look
yeah.
at it
You
so
can
many
flip
different
it, for
ways.
sure,
Like, why do you go 0 for 4 and assume bad's gonna happen instead of assuming good's gonna happen?
We did a thing with a guy that I threw to, and I won't say names or say anything, but really good. Okay, I got him the first couple times through. I threw probably at least 100 pitches, probably more than that straight, and from the beginning to the end, he figured it out.
Right.
And I think that even like what you're saying, that like the sample size, of course you're gonna fail. You never faced that guy before. You don't know what he's having.
Right.
How about getting in and just figuring it out? Like if I faced you 50 times
That's a different thing than what you're envisioning and talking about, right?
no, it's just further
Getting in and
it's-
figuring it out.
Yeah, like 50 at bat, like having 15 to 20 at bats against the same guy is a lot different than cycling through
Well, and
a
also
BP session where you have 2 at bats.
the
Right.
restrictions and the things that people think about too. Like if you do get that prospect and he does face those major league guys, right? They're gonna be like, you're only gonna throw 40 pitches. Like
Right.
I will sit up there for 150 pitches until I'm exhausted.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying like let's go 100 pitches and it might be only three at bats for whoever, for the 9 hitters or whatever it is, but like I want to see you throw 100 pitches
Why
against.
not have 4
against these
dudes?
big
Just
leagues.
Well, yeah,
Right,
that's
what I'm saying, and then
that's
add it
actually so that's my argument to it is it's actually small. It's small group work.
Right.
Like this exists. The resources at the major league level exist. So it's silly that it doesn't happen. Right? It does. If you don't want to take this live VP, don't do it. Like that
Right.
doesn't have to be a part of your
And
game.
there's 13 guys there, which again, make it part of, like, that's part of it, is like, no, you're gonna do it.
And then
unless
everybody's
you
getting
got
better.
10 years in the league and
Yeah.
you got 300 dingers and
Yeah.
you're gonna do it. I don't care what your last name is.
Everybody's going to be better in that situation. The guy throwing is going to get better because he's just constantly working on his stuff, right? He's going to get risk reward, finding out like, oh, okay, top of the knee on the black can still get hit. Should be bottom of the knee at the black, so he
Right.
can figure it out. The hitter's going to get better because he can see the ball and the flight and go and everything. And then when you got, you behind the turtle and you're talking about the strategy of what the guy's trying to do against him, it's like, oh, well, his sequence was, fast, slow, slow, fast. It's like, oh, okay, well, you weren't even thinking about that. You were
Right.
just like trying to see ball, hit ball. And like, I was telling him, we were watching, I did a live stream, I think you saw it, right? I predicted both teams were on second pitch swing, and they did it for the first 2 at bats. And then on the 3rd at bat, everybody unloaded and started going first and second pitch swing. And then we're just shutting it down through everything. And you can literally tell the big leaguer goes in there, he takes it, the guy throws the first pitch hammer, and there is nothing that moves. He goes like that right there. It's like there was no chance that guy was going to swing. There was no load, there was no twitch, no anything. And then the next pitch, if the guy threw the fastball, smoked. Right. But then if he threw a curveball again, you could see him and he actually had a little bit of load, and then he twitched and stopped. And I'm like, there's your answer. You can totally tell. And I went through and like I just saw the Astros. I'm like, this is crazy that like nobody's seeing this. That you can tell like if it doesn't matter if it's a ball or strike on the first pitch, that they are 95% going to be aggressive on the second pitch of the bat. And that was the Yankees and the Astros.
Oh, nowadays they just go to the piece of paper that says when they swing.
Yeah.
They lose that feel of using their eyes and going like, dude, I know that I don't need a piece of paper to tell me they're not swinging because I'm sitting here watching it, paying attention.
Well, and look at Kershaw. Like, as a big leaguer, you should know if you throw a good pitch and a guy hits a bomb, and you got a young kid coming up in the plate, he's swinging first pitch. How dare you throw him anything to hit first pitch? If you bounce the cutter instead of hanging it, he swings and looks like an idiot.
Yeah, especially like look at that kid's personality.
Exactly.
Like, you know he's gonna go out there.
Dude, he's taught. They do not walk off the island. It's the greatest, most perfect thing to say. Where these guys swing the bat, and that's all he does. All you can tell his wide base and his swing, that everything. He's looking to get underneath anything so he can be a little bit lower and launch it and lift it, and that's all he's trying to do. And I'm just so confused with why. First of all, anybody throws him a fastball. Like, what are you doing unless it's eye level?
He got like 10 curveballs or sliders.
And weird.
Day.
Well, I think it's we've been an hour plus right here. I think that's a pretty good one. Why don't you give everybody where you're at, so a little bit more information, how they can get a hold of you. Besides, you can start with the Twitter handle and everything from there. And
Simple, just PeabodyBaseball.com and at Peabody Baseball on Twitter.
And then you're in Canyon Side. Why don't you tell everybody where
I'm in
you're
Temecula, California, once a week. Carlsbad, California, once a week, and Miramar, Greater San Diego.
Greater San Diego. Cool.
Yes,
So, well, this has
Thank
been
you for
great.
having me, by the way.
This is
Appreciate it.
we got to do this some more and do some stuff. We got some ideas and
Zamora,
yeah,
keep going.
yeah, we got all kinds of good stuff of things that yeah, I think it's going to be awesome on some things. And you just said something earlier that I thought would be a great video podcast too, but we'll talk about it off air. So
if you like some of the things that we said, let us know. Share our stuff. That's all I have. I don't know what camera. I have the new phone. It's whatever.
yeah, it's all
Sweet.
good. Anyway, rate, review, subscribe. Appreciate it. Follow John. We'll put stuff in the show notes. Follow Cass. Follow me. Pass it around. We just want to help. That's pretty much where this comes from. And we see a little bit of a disconnect when it comes to training, and that's why we are in business. And we want to try to put the best product, out possible. And
Educate a bunch of people along the way.
for sure, 100%. I think this is the greatest way for us to put a more efficient message out to a lot of our followers and stuff like that. You should have a podcast. You should totally.
I had one. I didn't have time. Now my kids are in school full time, so I'm like,
We'll get back to it.
yeah, now I got time.
Yeah.
So it's coming. It's all coming.
Definitely. Cool. All right. Appreciate it.